Welcome everyone back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I just thought I'd make a card for a male, so a male card today. Mainly I was focusing on this ship here out of the Traveller stamp set, but I'm actually going to be using 4 stamp sets, including one that I've taken the sentiment from. So we're going to be using the ship out of the Traveller stamp set. Then we're going to be using a little bit of the grunge top one here from the Gorgeous Grunge stamp set. And my sentiment comes from Enjoy the Little Things, Celebrate Today, which we're stamping in Cajun Craze. And I'm also going to use the background stamp world map. So 4 stamp sets we're using today. So to start with, we'll just your base card, and all the measurements will be down in the comments section for you. Your base card, as usual, is going to be 8.5. Now I've had a blonde moment, but 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4.25, and then scored and folded. Then I'm bringing in a piece of early espresso, which will be my first layer. Then I have a piece of Cajun Craze. Now these are just my measurements, which, as I said, I will put them down in my comment section, but you don't have to use this colour combination. It's just showing you how we can do the different layers with the cardstock and some different stamps. Then I'm bringing in another piece of early espresso in a square, and then I'm going to bring in, to go in there, a piece of Very Vanilla, which I have pre-sponged before I came on camera to save some time, but I'll show you how I did that. And then the sentiment's going to go down there. So to start with, we'll just use some snail and pop that early espresso onto my base card. So I might try and do a couple of tutorials this month on male cards as well. We've got our card of the month this month, which is the Swallowtail stamp set, and I've done 3 tutorials this month using that stamp set in 3 different techniques. Today we're basically doing a male card. And I did start off by just using the ship, and then I started bringing in all these other stamps to just add a bit more texture to your card. So we've got that nice early espresso on there. Now with the Cajun Craze, what I'm going to do with that is grab the Gorgeous Grunge stamp set. And I'm just going to pop that on there. And I think I'll use the early espresso because it's a bit of a darker colour. And once we put the other layers, you're really not going to see much of the grunge effect, but it will be there. So we're just stamping it up. No wrong or right way, just however you'd like to do it. It's just adding a bit more texture to your card. So as I say, a lot of this is going to be covered with our next layer. You must probably think I'm going pretty crazy with this Gorgeous Grunge. So just peel that one off. Then I might even grab the smaller one from the Gorgeous Grunge, that little blotchy one there, and I might just go into a lighter colour, into the crumb cake colour. It might even be covered by the time I finish, but it doesn't matter. It's just really nice to have texture on your card. Just stamping that off, a little bit of ink that's left on there. Take that one off. So that dries pretty quickly. So then we're going to just get that ink out of my way so I don't put my finger in it. Then I'm going to just add that onto the early espresso. So I think I'll just put it about there. Just eyeballing it to be straight as possible. So we've got that. Then what I think I will do here is I want to stamp the world. What I've done, I'll just go through what I've done on here. So I've used the early espresso and a sponge. So what I did first, I just inked it up in the early espresso and I just went round all the edges with my sponge. Okay, so I wasn't really fussy how I did it. I just covering the very vanilla. So, and then I thought, I think I'll bring in a bit of sponging as well. So with the sponging, to start with, I just got rid of most of it and I just on the grid paper and then brought it in. And because it's a lot darker on the edges, I just started off on the edges, and then when you've hardly got any ink on that sponge, that's when I started bringing it into the middle. And you can put as little as or as more as you like on. So people that know me know my sponging technique now, but it's better to start with little and add it up. So that's what I did with that. And that piece, just grab my ruler, that just measures 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 for that little square. And then what I'm going to do is grab my world map and my crumb cake stamp pad. Just ink that up. I haven't used this stamp set yet, so there's an ant. It's just going to take a little, and I'm really only it's only the square that I'm going to be putting this on. And I think this ink pad needs to be inked up a bit more. I might just There's one. Okay, we'll take a risk and just straighten that square. So it's only really in the middle there that I want it to. I just wanted to use a lighter colour than the early Espresso that I sponged, just as an added dimension. Oh, perfect. So that's just given that background of the world map after we sponged it. It's quite a nice technique. Now, that's going to go up there, but before we do that, what I want to do is bring in my piece of early Espresso, which is about 3.5 by 3.5, and that's going to go on there like that. But before we do that, I'm going to stamp my ship on that world map. So we're going to have quite a lot of texture happening on this card today, quite a lot of layers. Now, when I want a really bold black image, I always grab my StazOn jet black. Just go a bit more on those sails. We don't want to miss the sails because we are stamping on top of all these other colours and techniques that we've just done. Make sure your map's up, not upside down when you do that. Now I'm just going to come down to the right hand corner because I'm thinking I'll put some regal dots up there, or even maybe some brads. I'm just going to hope to goodness that that stamps on there, which is awesome. So now we have, but we're not finished yet. So then what I might do, we'll just bring in some regals and my nice little Stampin' Up pokey tool, and the colour I want is the Cajun Craze. And I'm just going to put 3 across the top there. Trying to put them as evenly as possible so they look like they're in a row. Like that. And that's from the Regals collection in the Candy Dots. Now what I'm going to do is grab some dimensionals and I'm going to put 1 in each corner to start with. And then most probably just 1, like a row in the middle, should hold this on. So you just push down in the middle of these and they should peel off quite easily for you. I had no idea what I was going to do with this card today for a mail, so I'm just running by the seat of my pants with the layers, and I must just pop on the lid to my StazOn. That's very important. You must keep that lid on your StazOn so it doesn't dry out. And I'm still in focus, you can see that. So I'm just lining that piece of early espresso up with my grid paper. Just moved on me. Then I'm going to pop that down on there, and it's got that added dimension of having the dimensionals underneath, so it's sitting up. But we're not finished yet, and that's going to sit up there, which would be nice on its own, but we have got something else up our sleeve. Now we'll just before I bring in the other element. So we're going to open our card this way. Oops. So, and I'm going to put it about there. And you can see what I mean is most of the gorgeous grunge, all that stamping we did, a lot of it's going to be covered, but a lot of it's not. So it's a good way to have a background and take the bareness away from just cardstock. Now, before I came on camera, I stamped another ship with StazOn jet black ink, and I cut it out. You see that I cut it out. Now, I didn't worry about cutting round all these pieces up here because I thought, well, I'm stamping that on the card and you're going to be able to see that. So I wasn't cutting around the smoke or anything, just the main part of the ship. And then I cut it out, then I added dimensionals on the back, and then I'm just going to place that on the main part, so you'll still see all the sails, the lines of the sails. And I even put dimensionals under the chimney part where all the smoke comes out. So, just zoom in a bit for you. So you can see that you can still see all that part of the ship. The smoke is coming out of here, but we're going to add some Wink of Stella, the clear one. I'm just going to add that on the little black smoke. Maybe a little bit just on the flags. The flags are very little, and you could even come down the lines, which I think I'll do. Very fine, you're hardly touching it. The very fine lines of the ship's sail. It's just going to give you some definition. Like that. Just a little bit more on the smoke. And just very little bit just on the black part of the three chimneys. So that's coming together quite nicely. So then what I have left is the sentiment, which I'm going to pop here, I think, over, so we can still see the Cajun Craze cardstock underneath. I've stamped the Celebrate Today in Cajun Craze. I've put a piece of vanilla cardstock on top of a piece of crumb cake, and I did just lightly sponge with crumb cake round the edges of the crumb cake cardstock. Then what we might do is just grab some vintage brads, and with my pokey tool I'm only eyeballing that centre. So I'd want that one to be about there. This pokey tool is very fantastic when you're putting in brads. Now I just need to find two that are the same. Just poke them through there. Just adds a bit more. Now whether I'm just going to stick that down or whether I'm going to, not sure if I want to put, I don't want it to be exactly underneath it, like onto the edge of the cardstock. Think about there. And I think we'll just, so it doesn't take it away from the ship, we'll just grab our snail hard putting it over the brads. Then, because I don't want to cover up all that grunge work we did. So, grab my scissors and just poke that brad. Being very naughty. Oh, I just should have twisted the brad a bit. And lastly, our inside piece. So I'm just going to grab, I think, a bit of espresso. Now I haven't cleaned off the Stays On black, but I'm going to stamp off. It's going to come out in black anyway, and just put that in the corner. Then just grab my snail. Always like to finish off the cards with something inside as well. And then I just put my card straight into a cellophane bag, all ready. And someone comes and says, "Have you got a card? I need it like yesterday." Happens all the time. So I always have some cards on hand. So, look, we've got more ink on the grid paper than we did the card. But I think that card turned out quite well for a mail card. Just zoom in a bit, whoops, for you. So that's the mail card for today. So thank you for spending a few moments of your day with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.